Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're tuning in, you're clearly serious about getting your English to the next level. But here's something a lot of advanced learners run into, right? You can write perfectly, you ace the grammar, but then you talk to someone, maybe casually, and it just feels off. Your English sounds, well, maybe a bit stiff, too formal, kind of like you swallowed a textbook.
Yeah, that's a really common hurdle. It's like you're stuck in formal mode. You know the language, technically, but you're missing that easy, friendly flow that makes conversations feel natural.
Exactly. That's stiffness. That's what we're tackling today. We've been looking at how native speakers actually talk, day to day, and we've pulled out basically 3 really practical things you can do, like right away, to sound more relaxed, more natural.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because that textbook feeling, it often comes from, well, sticking too rigidly to those perfect sentence structures you learned. You're building sentences like Lego blocks very carefully. But natural spoken English, it uses shortcuts, rhythm. It implies things. If we shift focus a bit away from just correctness and towards conversational flow, you start sounding more natural almost instantly.
Okay, so let's dive into the first big one, relaxing the language itself, making it, as some analysis puts it, short, relaxed, and friendly. This isn't just about talking faster, is it? It's about sounding comfortable.
Right. And the number one tool for that, contractions.
Yeah.
Absolutely fundamental. If you're saying, I am going to the store in a casual chat, it sounds, well, a bit overly formal. The natural way is I'm going to the store. It's expected. If you're always saying do not is not we are, you automatically sound more formal, maybe even a little distant.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not just the basic ones like don't or isn't, right? The sources we looked at mentioned we actually use even more shortening, like blurring words together.
Exactly. This is where it gets really useful for you listeners who are already quite advanced. We're talking about common reductions, ways to make phrases quicker, more efficient. So instead of carefully saying, I'm going to go, what you usually hear is, I'm going to go. Or I want to eat becomes, I want to eat.
Oh, that's a big one. Because if you actually try to say going to perfectly clear in a normal paced conversation, it can sound kind of strange, like you're overdoing it.
Precisely. You're putting emphasis where native speakers usually don't in casual speech. Linguists who study this stuff, they point out that reductions like goa, wanna, gotta, which is gotta, they aren't mistakes. They're not really slang either. They're just the standard way these phrases sound in relaxed conversation. You pretty much have to use them to sound natural.
Okay, so practically speaking, using these contractions and reductions, that's like step 1 in shifting how you sound. It's like sending a signal, hey, I'm relaxed, this is casual.
Spot on. It's a social signal, really. And you see it even with more complex verb forms. Think about something like, I would have gone. Saying each word clearly takes time, feels clunky. The natural reduced form is I'd gone, which often sounds almost like I'd have gone. That kind of compression, it's almost essential for speed and sounding natural. If you only do one thing from our chat today, focus on relaxing that grammar. Use those contractions and reductions consistently.
That really clicks. Okay, so once the words themselves are shorter, more relaxed, what's next? You mentioned rhythm, the sound. This is where it gets really interesting, right? Talking about intonation.
Stress.
Intonation, yes. That's the secret ingredient, I think, that makes your voice sound alive, not like a robot. You could say a perfectly contracted sentence like, I'm going to go, but if you say it completely flat, I'm going to go, it just sounds off, distant, maybe even bored or annoyed. Studies of speech patterns show English relies heavily on these ups and downs in pitch to show meaning and attitude. Right, we learn the basics, like questions often go up at the end, statements go down. But let's get into the finer points. How does subtle intonation really separate, say, an advanced learner from someone who sounds completely native?
We'll take that rising tone. Yes is for basic yes-no questions like, are you coming? Rising tone. But native speakers also use a sharp rising tone, often on just one word, to show strong surprise or doubt. Like, if someone tells you something unbelievable, you might just say, really? With a high, sharp rise. That means, wow, I can't believe that.
Okay, and what if I said that same word really, but with the tone going sharply down?
Totally different meaning. A quick falling tone on really usually singles something like, okay, I get it, or fine, or maybe even a little impatience, like, yes, I heard you, let's move on. So using the wrong tone, like a rising tone when you mean to sound certain, it can really confuse the listener. It makes you sound hesitant, even if your words are confident.
That's such a key difference. So you could answer a question, perfect grammar, perfect words, but if your voice goes up at the end like a question,
you completely undermine your own message. Exactly. You sound unsure. And then there's stress. Where you put the emphasis in a sentence changes everything. Take a simple sentence. I didn't say he stole the money. If you stress I didn't say he stole the money. It implies someone else did. Stress stole. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe he borrowed it or found it. Stress money. I didn't say he stole the money. Maybe he stole something else. Getting this right means realizing meaning isn't just in the dictionary or the grammar book. It's in the sound waves.
Wow. Okay. That's a whole level deeper. It means when you're listening, you shouldn't just listen for the words. You need to tune into the pitch changes, the volume shifts. That's where a lot of the real meaning is.
And it connects right back to being relaxed. If you're speaking too fast, too stiffly, you physically don't have the space or control to make those subtle tone changes. You just end up sounding flat.
Okay, this is great. So relaxed words, lively intonation. What about the bits in between, the pauses? We need to talk about those little words people use, like or, conversational fillers. They sometimes get a bad reputation.
They really do. So many learners are told, don't say, it makes you sound bad. But that's kind of a misunderstanding of how real conversation works. The research we looked at, it shows native speakers use these little words and sounds all the time. And it's not usually because they don't know what to say. It's often about managing the conversation, holding your turn, making things flow smoothly.
But isn't there a risk, like using too much or can make you sound hesitant or unprepared?
That's a really good point. There's definitely a difference between, let's say, using fillers strategically and just uncontrolled stalling. We're talking about the strategic ones. Things like starting with well, or adding, or using softening words like kind of or kinda.
Yeah.
These aren't just empty sounds. They actually do conversational work.
Okay, give us an example. How does adding a filler change things?
Okay, imagine someone suggests an idea you don't like. You could just say, I disagree. That's a bad idea. Grammatically perfect, socially, a bit blunt, maybe even rude, depending on the context.
Yeah, very direct.
Now, compare that to something like, well, I kind of see where you're coming from, but, I'm wondering if that might get tricky later on. See the difference? Yeah, they soften the disagreement. They give you, the speaker, a split second to phrase things carefully, and they give the listener a heads up that disagreement is coming. It makes the whole interaction feel less confrontational.
Right. It feels more like you're thinking together rather than just shooting down the idea, often signals you're thinking or softening what comes next.
Exactly. And, it's interesting, too. It often works like a quick little check-in, like saying, are you following me? Or we're on the same page, right?
Yeah.
But without actually stopping to ask the full question. Learning to sprinkle these in just a little is really key for getting that natural rhythm and avoiding those awkward silences.
This has been incredibly useful. Okay, let's try and pull this together. We've covered quite a bit. What's the sort of magic formula here?
Yeah, it boils down to maybe three main things we've hit on. First, relaxed language.
Okay.
That means using contractions and comment reductions like gonna, wanna, gotta, make them automatic. Second, sounding alive. That's using intonation, the ups and downs and stress, correctly to show your meaning and attitude. Don't be flat. And third, smooth flow. Using those little fillers like, kind of strategically to bridge thoughts and manage the back and forth.
Okay, great summary. And if you, listening, want to actually use these things, not just know about them, what's the best way to practice? The sources must have had advice on that.
Absolutely. It's all about active listening and active speaking. You have to, as the advice goes, listen to native speakers often, but not just passively. Listen for these specific things. Notice the reductions. Notice the intonation patterns. How do they disagree politely using fillers? Tune your ear to it.
And then you have to actually do it right. You can't just listen. You need to practice saying it yourself. Build that muscle memory.
Exactly right. It's about building confidence, too.
Yeah.
Shadowing is great for this, repeating phrases right after you hear a native speaker say them. Say the casual greetings out loud. Hey, how's it going? I'm good, thanks. How about you? Repeat them until they feel easy, natural. Practice those tricky reductions like I'd gone until the sounds just flow together. It's this physical practice that helps break that habit of mentally translating formal sentences from your own language.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means getting that natural conversational sound isn't really about learning more fancy words. It's more about intentionally relaxing how you sound, changing your focus from just grammatical perfection to comfort and flow. You're basically retraining your mouth and your ear.
Yeah, and when you do that, when you internalize these shortcuts and rhythms, you get closer to that big goal. You stop translating in your head. You start actually thinking in English. You become a real participant in the conversation, not just someone reciting grammar rules.
Okay, so we've spent this deep dive talking about all the positive things you should do to sound more natural. But sometimes knowing what not to do is just as useful, isn't it?
That's a really interesting point. We focused on the do's today. But it does make you think, what about the don'ts? Are there specific mistakes, maybe things rooted in how people first learned English, or maybe common translation traps that advanced learners keep making? Things that, actively work against sounding natural, even if they're trying hard with contractions and intonation, understanding those pitfalls. Yeah, that could be really valuable too. Definitely something worth digging into next time.